Have you ever planted a whole row of expensive seeds, watered them carefully, and then stared at empty dirt for weeks? What if I told you that you are setting your garden up for failure before you even put a shovel in the ground? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are talking about a technique so powerful it almost feels like cheating. We are diving into the secret art of soaking your seeds before you plant them. I am going to show you how this one simple step will give you roots that grow 3 times faster and a harvest that is up to 5 times larger. But here is the real kicker. Commercial nurseries absolutely hate it when you do this. They actively hide this information from you. Why? Because they want you to get frustrated with seeds, so you go back and buy their overpriced, pre-grown plants. Today, we are breaking that cycle. I am going to reveal exactly how to wake up your seeds, guarantee germination, and explode your harvest. Are you someone who always follows the rules on the back of the seed packet? Or are you ready to try something a little rebellious? Let me know your gardening style in the comments right now. To understand why this trick works so well, we have to travel back in time. For thousands of years, nature has designed seeds to be incredible survivors. A seed is basically a baby plant, locked inside a tiny, tough vault. This vault is meant to survive freezing winters, scorching droughts, and even being eaten by animals. This built-in survival mechanism is called seed dormancy. In the wild, a seed will wait months or years for the absolute perfect amount of spring rain before it decides to wake up. When humans started agriculture, we relied on this natural waiting game. But over time, master farmers figured out a shortcut. They realized they could trick the seeds into thinking they had just experienced the perfect spring storm. Modern commercial growers use this science every single day to guarantee a 100% success rate in their massive greenhouses. Yet when they print the instructions on those little paper packets for home gardeners, they leave this crucial step out. They tell you to just drop the dry seed into the dirt and wait. But waiting is the enemy of a massive harvest. Let us explore the real way to start your garden. Let us dive right into the hidden biology of a dry seed. Think of a seed not just as a speck of dirt, but as a tiny armoured vehicle. Inside this vehicle sleeps the embryo of your future plant, completely frozen in time. It is waiting for the exact right signal to wake up. Its outer shell is designed by evolution to be incredibly tough. This protects the fragile life inside from bugs, mold, and harsh weather. When you take a dry seed from a packet and throw it directly into cold garden soil, you are asking that sleeping plant to break through a steel door with zero energy. It has to slowly gather moisture from the surrounding dirt, which can take days or even weeks. This is a huge waste of the plant's potential. Picture baking a cake. You would never put a raw cake into a cold oven and then turn it on. You preheat the oven first. Soaking your seeds is like preheating the oven for your garden. It primes the environment so the action can start immediately. Now let us talk about what actually happens when you soak a seed. The scientific term for this magic is imbibition. Do not let the fancy word scare you. It simply means drinking water. When you drop a dry seed into water, the hard outer shell begins to swell. It acts exactly like a dry, stiff kitchen sponge that you drop into a sink full of water. It expands and softens instantly. This sudden rush of water penetrates the armoured shell and sends a loud chemical alarm clock ringing inside the seed. It tells the baby plant that spring has officially arrived and there's plenty of moisture to survive. This unlocks the enzymes needed for explosive growth. Instead of wasting its initial energy fighting a hard shell, the plant can direct 100% of its power into pushing out its very first root. That is how you get a head start on the growing season. It is time to debunk one of the biggest myths in gardening. The back of almost every seed packet tells you to sow directly into the soil. Why do they lie to you? Well, it is not exactly a lie, but it is the laziest way to garden. Seed companies write instructions that require the absolute least amount of effort from the buyer. They know that if they write a complex 5-step preparation process, beginners might get scared and not buy the seeds. So they tell you to just throw them in the dirt. But this generic advice guarantees average, mediocre results. It leaves your seeds vulnerable to rotting in cold, wet soil or drying out if you miss a day of watering. Imagine trying to run a marathon right after waking up without stretching or drinking a glass of water. That is what you are doing to your seeds when you plant them dry. We want exceptional results, not average ones. So, what is the real nursery secret? Why do large garden centres keep this quiet? It all comes down to money. Nurseries make their biggest profits by selling you established seedlings in little plastic pots. A single tomato seed costs a fraction of a penny, but a tomato seedling in a plastic pot can cost you $5 or more. If every home gardener knew how to easily and quickly sprout 100% of their seeds, the seedling industry would collapse overnight. They rely on your seeds failing or growing too slowly. When your dry planted seeds fail to sprout after 2 weeks, what do? You panic. You drive to the garden centre and spend $50 on baby plants to save your summer garden. It is an amazing business model for them, but a terrible one for your wallet. By soaking your seeds, you take back control and cut the nurseries out of the equation completely. Let us get practical. How do you actually soak them? The very first rule is about the water you use. You cannot just blast them with water straight from the kitchen tap. City tap water is filled with chlorine and chloramine. These chemicals are put in the water to kill bacteria, but they will also kill the delicate living cells of your seed embryo. Using tap water is like trying to make a delicate, expensive cup of tea. Using swimming pool water, it just ruins the whole thing. You need to use filtered water, spring water, or pure collected rainwater. If tap water is your only option, fill a glass and leave it sitting on the counter for 24 hours. The chlorine will naturally evaporate into the air. Giving your seeds clean, pure water is the first step to guaranteeing a massive, healthy root system. Temperature is just as important as the quality of the water. You want to use warm water, not hot, and definitely not cold. Think of the temperature of a comfortable warm bath. It should feel soothing to the touch, roughly around 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Why warm water? Because heat speeds up chemical reactions. Cold water will make the seed stay asleep longer, thinking it is still winter. Boiling hot water will literally cook the seed and kill the baby plant instantly. Warm water relaxes the tough outer shell and gently coaxes the plant to wake up. Imagine you are sleeping deeply in your bed. Waking up to a gentle warm sunrise is wonderful. Waking up by having a bucket of ice water dumped on you is a shock to the system. Treat your seeds to a gentle warm sunrise and they will reward you with incredibly fast growth. Now, let us level up our soaking game. Water is great, but we can do better. Have you ever considered making tea for your seeds? Chamomile tea is an absolute game changer in the gardening world. Chamomile contains natural antifungal properties. One of the biggest dangers to a new sprout is a disease called dampening off. This is a fungus in the soil that attacks weak stems and kills the baby plant overnight. Soaking your seeds in weak, room temperature chamomile tea gives them a protective shield. It is like sending your seeds to a relaxing health spa before sending them to work in the garden. They absorb the moisture they need to wake up, while also getting a coating of natural medicine that fights off harmful soil bacteria. Just brew a cup, let it cool down completely, and drop your seeds in. If you want to get truly explosive root growth, you need to know about the hydrogen peroxide trick. You probably have a brown bottle of 3% hydrogen peroxide in your bathroom cabinet right now. Hydrogen peroxide is basically water with an extra oxygen atom attached to it. When you add just a few drops of it to your soaking water, incredible things happen. First, it sterilizes the outside of the seed, killing any diseases hiding on the shell. Second, as it breaks down, it releases pure oxygen directly into the water. Seeds need oxygen to sprout, just like we need it to breathe. Soaking seeds in this mixture is like putting an oxygen mask on an athlete right before a big race. It supercharges their metabolism. The roots burst out of the shell with incredible force and speed. There is another secret ingredient you can use for soaking, and it comes straight from nature: aloe vera juice. Aloe vera is packed with natural rooting hormones, vitamins, and enzymes. It is basically a magic potion for root development. If you take a fresh aloe vera leaf, blend the gel with some pure water, and soak your seeds in it, the results will blow your mind. The natural hormones in the aloe tell the seed to focus entirely on building a massive, deep root system before growing its leaves. It is like feeding your seeds a highly advanced vitamin smoothie. Plants with massive root systems can drink more water and absorb more nutrients from the soil. And more nutrients always equal a much, much bigger harvest at the end of the season. It is a completely organic hack that commercial organic farmers use all the time. Timing is everything when it comes to this method. A massive mistake people make is leaving the seeds in the water for way too long. If you leave them soaking for days, they will actually drown. Remember, seeds need oxygen. If they are submerged too long, they run out of air and rot. The golden rule for most average-sized seeds is to soak them for 12 to 24 hours, no more than that. You want to look at the seeds. When they look noticeably plump and have sunk to the bottom of the glass, they are fully hydrated and ready to go. Think of a dry raisin. If you soak a raisin in water, it plumps back up and looks almost like a grape again. But if you leave it in water for a week, it turns into mush. You want your seeds to be plump and happy, not mushy and drowned. Not all seeds are created equal, so you have to know what you're working with. We generally divide seeds into two categories, hard shell and soft shell. Big chunky seeds like peas, beans, squash, and corn have very thick, armour-like shells. These are the ones that benefit the absolute most from a long, 24-hour soak. Small delicate seeds like lettuce, carrots or tomatoes have very thin shells. If you soak these tiny seeds for too long, they will turn into a slimy mess that is impossible to handle. For the tiny seeds, a quick 2-hour soak is more than enough to wake them up. Picture the difference between cracking open a heavy metal safe versus opening a thin cardboard box. The thick seeds need a lot of time to let the water break down their defences, while the thin ones are ready almost instantly. For the absolute toughest seeds in your garden, soaking alone might not be enough. This brings us to a pro technique called scarification. Some seeds, like certain thick gourds or nasturtium flowers, have shells so hard they are practically waterproof. Before you drop these into your warm water, you need to scratch the surface. You can use a piece of sandpaper or a small nail file to gently rub the edge of the seed until you just barely see the lighter colour inside. Do not crush it, just scratch it. This is exactly like scratching a lottery ticket. You are just removing the top layer to reveal the prize inside. By making this tiny scratch, you create a direct tunnel for the water to rush in during the soak. This combined scratch and soak method guarantees a 100% sprout rate on seeds that usually frustrate gardeners. While your seeds are soaking, you can perform a brilliant little trick called the viability test. Nature is not perfect, and sometimes a seed is simply dead. Inside the packet, it is called a blank. Why waste garden space and precious time planting a dead seed? When you first drop your seeds into the water, you will notice some float and some sink. The floaters usually have an air pocket inside because the embryo never formed properly or it dried up and died. The heavy, healthy seeds will sink directly to the bottom. It is like tossing a coin into a wishing well. If it sinks, your garden wishes will come true. Now give them a few hours because sometimes good seeds have surface tension and float at first. But if a seed is still floating after 24 hours, throw it away. You just saved yourself weeks of waiting for a plant that was never going to grow. Once the soaking time is up, you have to act quickly. You cannot dry the seeds back out or you will kill them. Once the alarm clock rings, the baby plant starts growing and it cannot go back to sleep. Carefully drain the water. Some gardeners like to use the paper towel method at this stage. You place the damp, swollen seeds inside a slightly moist paper towel, put that inside a plastic bag, and put it in a warm, dark place for another day. This acts like a cosy, humid incubator for a baby. In just 24 to 48 hours, you'll literally see a tiny white root bursting out of the shell. It is the most satisfying thing in the world to see with your own eyes. You now have a living, breathing, actively growing plant ready for the soil. Planting a soaked and sprouted seed requires a very gentle touch. You are no longer dealing with a tough, armoured vault. You are handling a fragile newborn plant. That tiny white root sticking out is the taproot, and it is the lifeline of your future harvest. If you break it off, the plant dies immediately. When you transfer these to the soil, do not just push them down with your thumb like you would a dry seed. Use a pencil or a stick to make a nice deep hole in the soil. Carefully drop the seed in, making sure the tiny root is pointing downwards. Then very gently cover it with loose soil. Think of it like carrying a very fragile glass ornament. You have to be deliberate and careful. Taking an extra 5 seconds per seed right now will ensure they settle in perfectly and continue their explosive growth. The condition of your soil at planting time is the next crucial piece of the puzzle. You have just taken a fully hydrated, happy seed out of a moisture-rich environment. You absolutely cannot drop it into bone-dry, dusty dirt. If you do, the dry dirt will act like a sponge and suck all the moisture right back out of the seed, killing it in hours. It would be like stepping out of a nice warm shower and immediately being dropped into the middle of the Sahara Desert. Your garden soil needs to be pre-moistened before you plant. Water your garden beds deeply the day before you plan to plant your soaked seeds. The soil should feel like a wrung-out sponge, damp, dark, and crumbly. When the swollen seed touches this damp soil, the roots will seamlessly transition and keep growing at maximum speed without missing a beat. Let us talk about what happens underground during this 3 times faster root growth phase. Because the seed did not have to fight to crack its shell, it has massive reserves of energy left over. It takes all of that stored energy and drives a taproot deep into the earth. It happens so fast, it is like watching a time-lapse of a bustling city, building an intricate underground subway system. Within days, secondary roots shoot out in every direction, grabbing onto soil particles and searching for water and food. A dry, planted seed might take 2 weeks just to break its shell. In those same 2 weeks, your soaked seed has already built a root network the size of a softball. This massive root system acts like a giant mouth, ready to feed the plant massive amounts of nutrients the second the sun hits its leaves. This massive, fast root system leads directly to an explosion of top growth. You will notice your soaked seeds breaking the surface of the soil days, or sometimes weeks, earlier than normal. Because they have such a strong anchor and feeding system below ground, the stem grows thick and sturdy. The first true leaves are larger and greener. This early vigour is the secret to a massive harvest. It is exactly like a runner getting a huge head start in a marathon. By the time the bugs and summer heat arrive, your plants are already mature enough to fight them off. A weak, slow-growing plant is an easy target for pests. A fast-growing, robust plant simply outgrows the damage. You are setting up a biological momentum that carries the plant all the way through to harvest time. Now we reach the best part, the 5 times bigger harvest. How does a simple soak multiply your food so drastically? It is simple math and biology. A plant with a massive root system can support heavy fruit. Think of tomato plants. A weak root system will cause the plant to drop its flowers because it knows it cannot physically support the weight of the tomatoes. But your soaked, supercharged plants have the structural strength of a giant oak tree. They hold on to every single flower. They pull up so much water that the fruits swell to massive sizes without splitting. Instead of getting 10 average tomatoes from a struggling plant, you get 50 massive, juicy tomatoes from a thriving one. You have essentially unlocked the maximum genetic potential of that specific seed, all because you gave it a warm bath before planting. Let us do a final troubleshooting check to make sure you get this right. The most common mistake people make after soaking is letting the soil dry out during the first week. Even though the seed is planted, it is still very near the surface. The sun can bake the top inch of soil very quickly. If that tiny root dries out, it is game over. You must keep the top layer of soil consistently moist, but not muddy, for the first 7 days. Check it every morning. Think of yourself as a pilot checking the flight instruments right after takeoff. Takeoff is the most dangerous part of the flight. Once the plant is a few inches tall and the roots are deep, you can relax and switch to deep, infrequent watering. But for that first week, pay close attention. Give them the care they need, and they will reward you with an avalanche of fresh food. So, what is the ultimate twist in all of this? The truth is, plants are incredibly smart, but they are also a little lazy. If you give them a harsh environment, they will hesitate, conserve energy, and give you a tiny harvest. But if you mimic the perfect spring conditions by simply soaking your seeds, you trick nature into unleashing a powerhouse of growth. The nurseries know this. They know that untreated seeds frustrate you, keeping you coming back to buy their overpriced plastic pots. But today, you took your power back. You now know the science of imbibition, the power of warm water, and the incredible hacks using chamomile tea and aloe vera. You understand how to build roots 3 times faster to support a harvest 5 times bigger. You are no longer just dropping seeds in the dirt and hoping for the best. You are a master of plant biology. Thank you so much for watching and learning with me today. If this secret blew your mind and you are ready to boycott expensive seedlings, please hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. It really helps the channel grow. Now I have a question for you. Which seed are you going to soak first using this method? Are you going to try the chamomile tea trick on your tomatoes or the hydrogen peroxide on your beans? Let us start a massive discussion down in the comments section. Until next time, keep your hands dirty and your gardens growing.